to my family and friends. I wrote this first for myself and now for you. My theme is winning. First, I must ask the question, what is winning? To quote an old saying, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. Winning has more relevance to life than just games of sport. It is from the context of sport that I would like to give you my answer, at least for me, of what living is all about. I am a runner. That's the bottom line. As a long-distance runner, I rank in the top percent of my age group nationally. So I guess I qualify as an athlete, but I think of myself only as a runner. To me, that is an important point, for I feel that it is significant in describing me as a person. Through this occasion, I became aware, gradually over the years, of what I am all about. As a cadet at West Point, I was inculcated with the idea of winning in battle. Second best is defeat. I took a loss, whatever the contest, harshly. I carried that feeling into my career and life. As General MacArthur once wrote, on the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that on other days, on other fields, will bear the fruits of victory. I never thought to ask for his definition of victory. I entered my first long-distance race, a 36-mile run from the Washington Monument to Mount Vernon and back some years ago. I had no idea of what I was in for. I knew my chances of winning anything was nil. For me, it was a once-in-a-lifetime challenge, something I could brag about in the coming years. I finished about an hour behind the winner, and those last 10 miles were agony. I had nothing left, but I was determined to finish. I could not bend my legs for 2 days, and it was 2 more before they stopped hurting. I had managed to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which is 10 miles shorter, and in spite of my pain, I was elated. I had finished well back, but I had done what I set out to do, and I had won myself a trip to the most famous long-distance race of them all. I was hooked. I took up running in earnest, not just 2 or 3 miles a day to keep fit, but 8, 10, 15, and eventually 20 miles to improve my ability. Running became a way of life, my objective. I went to the races to commune with friends, to pit myself against them, to achieve a personal objective, to discover what I was made of. Each time, it was a discovery of my total self. For the first time in my life, I realized that it was not necessary, as the philosophers tell it, for my soul to be free of my body in order to discover the meaning of existence. The run was the integration of my total being, of my physical and spiritual selves, learning that one was less than whole without the other. In those last miles, when I was physically exhausted, it was a test of my mental willpower to continue. It was discovering life in miniature form, work, deprivation, suffering, and joy. Each time I ran, I felt I accomplished something, even though I may not have achieved a personal objective. Yes, I won a few races, but my most memorable were ones in which I finished farther back. Others have said this before me. Training runs may put us in touch with our source of inspiration, creativity, and intuitive flashes of understanding. But the race is reality. Here we are stripped. Here, even name, rank, and serial number are irrelevant. In this seemingly artificial situation, we put ourselves to the practical test. The race allows us to push ourselves to the absolute limit, to share, however briefly and symbolically, in the tragedy all around us. And more than that, in this Advent, this new birth, I not only become a man, I accept the man I am. The race is one place where two contradictory ideas about life can exist. The first is that everything done well is inherently a criticism of anything done poorly. The second, if a thing is worth doing, it is worth doing badly. Defeat then can be as revealing as victory and seen for what it is, a learning experience. If we are to invent a plot for our existence, we must know exactly who we are. Untried, unchallenged, we would never know. And we know it in our bones that the poet was right. In pleasant ease and security, how soon the soul of man begins to die. A very good friend of mine came up to Fairbanks from Anchorage to run the Equinox Marathon. He was determined to outrace me, for I had taken his measure in the Gold Discovery race earlier. He took an early lead, but I caught up with him about 5 miles from the finish. As I closed the gap, I felt so good that I shouted after him. He turned, startled to see me, then took off like a scared rabbit. I could not close the gap, but I ran the best race of my life, and I knew it when I crossed the finish line. We were both so happy. All we could do was embrace each other. He was second in the race, and I was third. But we both had won, and we knew it. I discovered what many runners know. The competition is with ourselves. It has occurred to me, watching runners finish a long-distance race, that it is rather foolish to bother counting places. Finishing is the accomplishment. America is a competitive society. We all want to win, yet Americans tend to root for the underdog. Is that a contradiction of terms? Perhaps in our national consciousness we have but to discover the true source of our souls. It is not only winning, but the way in which we attempt it that matters. I remember watching a little league baseball game. A player was injured sliding into second base. Without a moment's hesitation, his coach ran onto the field to assist the ball player. The opposing coach protested to the umpire that his action was illegal, for time had not been called. He insisted that the game should be forfeited. Later, I asked him why he had done such a thing. The protest was not allowed, and I surmised that the coach did not expect it. After all, play had been stopped. It didn't really matter. His reply was that it was his way to teach his players what they would have to know when they grew up and entered the dog-eat-dog adult world. It was, he further stated, the American way. It's what you get away with that counts. In my mind, I raised the American flag upside down in distress. At the University of Alaska, I sponsored a Run for Your Life program. 2 lads came in one day to sign up. I gave them all pertinent information and a log upon which to record the number of miles they ran. One asked me if I required some kind of verification before he could get his 50-mile patch. I replied no. How? He asked. Will you know that I actually did it? I won't, I replied, but you will. One summer at the Midnight Sun Marathon, a runner complained that he had run off course and had gone an extra mile out of his way because the course was not well marked in that area. Had this been so, he would have placed 3rd instead of 5th. Under the rules, nothing could be done about such an unfortunate circumstance. The 3rd and 4th place finishers confirmed that his must have happened and asked that our friend be awarded 3rd place. They lived with their accomplishments. Each had run personal best times for the marathon distance. They were happy with what they had accomplished and wanted nothing to sully the joy of that achievement. What I am talking about is our attitude toward ourselves. I want to take this a bit further. A friend told me that he did not expect to run his best race that particular day. He felt that he was still getting into shape, but still had some work to do. Then, with an enthusiastic smile, he very seriously stated that he felt he would not peak for another 3 or 4 years. He still had a lot to learn about himself and his abilities. He was 69 years old. Another friend, Norman Vaughn, traveled with Admiral Byrd to the South Pole many years ago. At 71, he could easily rest upon his laurels, yet he still worked and even attempted the 1,100-mile Iditarod Trail sled dog race. I could name many others. For them, life was not over at 17 or 30 or 45. Each day offers a new challenge. How many times have I sat in a gathering such as this and listened to some wise individual tell a group of graduates that his generation is passing the baton of society onto the new generation. It was up to them now to make the world better. Thinking upon it, I don't believe it. You will make many, if not most, of the mistakes I have made. Perhaps the world will improve, but it won't be because you are here and I am not. In my life, I pass the baton on to no one. The challenge is still mine. I have too many things to do. If you come to the starting line, I will shake your hand and wish you well, but I will push with all my heart to outlast you. And when you cross the finish line, regardless of who gets there first, I will shake your hand again for a race well run, remembering that there will always be other races. I do not conceive of myself as growing old, only growing. I ask you, will you peak at the age of 17 or 30 or 45? Will you hang up your spikes once you are out of school? I know what General MacArthur meant by the word victory. Second best does not hack it. But he was wrong. There is no victory in life. We do not go to our graves having been successful or failures or nondescript. Life is a series of victories and setbacks. For those who keep trying, there are no defeats. You may finish one race, but there are others down the road. You cannot rest upon your laurels. How am I? I'm great, and I am getting better. To you, the ones who mean the most to me, I love you and thank you for being part of my life.